This week, Bernie Sanders will host a discussion between Chinese scientists and American scientists on the need for international cooperation to deal with the existential threat of AI. As the experts continue to warn us about AI's rapidly improving capabilities and our complete inability to control them once they become more powerful than we are, we still currently have the world's two superpowers who are seemingly unwilling to talk to each other on this issue. But as the scientific consensus acknowledging the threat of AI grows, as does the public backlash against it, maybe we will soon begin to see serious international dialogue between the world's major powers, including the US and China, to attempt to deal with this threat. But can we actually get there from here? Well, here's what one of the godfathers of AI, Jeffrey Hinton, has to say about it.
I don't think China and the US will collaborate on things like detecting fake videos or thwarting cyber attacks, because their interests aren't aligned there. People only collaborate when their interests are aligned, and on that their interests are opposed and they will not collaborate. But they will collaborate on how do you prevent AI from taking over, because there their interests are aligned.
The American government does not want AI companies to build superintelligent AI that they cannot control. The Chinese government also doesn't want that. So it seems like maybe they should just work together to stop AI companies doing that. Let's try and use an analogy here to just understand how stupid and self-defeating this AI race between the US and China is. So imagine if the US and China were both racing each other to try and build this new massive country in the middle of the Pacific called Halistan. Both sides had these islands building technologies, and they were able to build these small islands that would have a few people pop up on it that were able to do some simple tasks for the company. And as their islands building capabilities improved and improved, these islands got bigger, the number of inhabitants on it grew, and they also got smarter. And it was pretty clear that we were on a trajectory to get to this massive islands in the middle of the Pacific with billions of geniuses who never sleep and can work thousands of times faster than Americans can and Chinese people can. Now, whichever country gets there first, that could be hugely beneficial for them if, and this is a massive if the inhabitants of Halistan actually want to help Chinese people or they want to help American people. If Halistan is loyal to its creator, then building it would be hugely beneficial and it would mean that you win the 21st century. But here's the problem. How would you actually make sure that Halistan, this new country, remains loyal to you? That seems like an incredibly difficult thing to do. And imagine if in this world we had already had cases where people were using residents of Halistan to do tasks for them, and they had already lied on tests to pretend to be more aligned than they actually were. They had already cheated and deceived users, and they had already even attempted to kill users in test scenarios. I think pretty clearly, if we were in that world, everyone would be saying, what the hell are we doing? The winner of a Halistan race between the US and China would not be the US, would not be China, it would be Halistan. The exact same thing is true of AI, and here's how former OpenAI board member Helen Toner put it in the US Senate a couple of weeks ago.
The way I've heard this put best is right now, the way that we build AI and the level of control we have over it, which is not great, the winner of any AI race between the US and China is the AI. And I think we need to be working to make sure that is not the case. I think it is very important that the US AI sector remains ahead of the Chinese AI sector. But if that's at the expense of AI overrunning the entire planet, then that hasn't benefited us.
That sounds entirely sensible.
Now, obviously, geopolitics is in a shaky position at the minute, but over the last couple of years, we have had plenty of examples of American and Chinese scientists hosting discussions and talks with each other on how they can cooperate to mitigate these risks that the experts are warning us about. Because it is technically feasible to put an effective ban on the development of superintelligent AI. In order to train a frontier AI model, you need tens of thousands of GPUs, you need billions of dollars, you need to host those GPUs in a massive data center. No one is currently capable of doing this in secret. So if you had buy-in from the major powers, you would easily be able to set up some kind of international institute that would track the movement of AI chips and the machines that are needed to build them. And we would be able to put an effective ban on the race to superintelligence. And actually, back in 2023, at the first UN Security Council meeting on AI, China actually mentioned the possibility of monitoring the supply chain so that humanity can pause AI.
We need to strengthen the detection and evaluation of the entire life cycle of AI, ensuring that mankind has the ability to press the pause button at critical moments.
Just as we have plenty of evidence of politicians and scientists in America taking this threat seriously and beginning to do something about it, we also do have evidence that the Chinese government itself is worried about loss of control when it comes to AI. And if you think about it, if there's one thing that the Chinese government doesn't want to happen, whether it's the AI or whether it's the humans, it's to lose control. As we've said, it is in the interest of the CCP to not allow any AI company anywhere to build AI that escapes human control. It's also in the interest of the US government and every other government on the planet. And remember, international coordination to deal with serious threats is not this pie in the sky idea. It has happened many times before.
In much the same way as the Soviet Union and the United States, their interests were aligned in the 1950s in preventing a global nuclear war. It wasn't good for either of them. And so they did actually collaborate in ways to prevent that.
Nuclear arms treaties at the height of the Cold War are one example. Another is what we did in the 1980s when it came to CFCs. The experts were warning everyone that if we continue to use products like hairsprays with CFCs, then our ozone layer would basically be destroyed, which would strip away the protective layer of the atmosphere. It would give us all skin cancer. It would cause famines. It would be disastrous. Even though there were economic incentives to continue using and producing CFCs, every country understood that no one benefits if our ozone layer is destroyed. So in 1987, every country on the planet, including North Korea, including China, including America, including Zimbabwe and France and Spain and every country you can think of, we all came together to sign a treaty that would phase out completely the use of CFCs.
It's being called an unprecedented display of international cooperation to protect the world's environment.
That is perhaps the greatest example of international coordination we have ever seen, and it probably will be harder when it comes to AI, but we can do it. Because while unfortunately we have failed to have serious international cooperation when it comes to climate change, I think AI is different in a way that makes me more hopeful about the prospect of international cooperation here. When it comes to climate change, the rich and powerful are likely to be unaffected. It's the people in the third world, in low-lying lands, that are going to face the brunt of the problems. It's not Donald Trump and it's not Xi Jinping. However, the threat of superintelligent AI is unique in that it threatens the lives of everyone. It doesn't matter how rich you are. It doesn't matter how much power you have. It doesn't matter what country you live in. When we destroy rainforests or when we hunt or when we farm animals, we don't spare the rich and powerful amongst them. We just kill them all because we are more intelligent than they are. We are so technologically advanced that there's nothing they can do about it. And the tiny differences that exist between them are completely irrelevant to us. If we build superintelligent AI, the differences that exist between us are going to be completely irrelevant. So because this threatens all of our lives, that gives me so much hope that we can internationally cooperate to prevent the development of superintelligence. It doesn't require Donald Trump to have an altruistic bone in his body. He can act on this on pure self-interest alone. The exact same thing is true of Xi Jinping and of every other world leader. But all of that is not going to happen by itself. International treaties don't just come out of thin air. They require ordinary people contacting their politicians, letting them know about these risks. So I've left 2 links in the description below. One is to contact your lawmakers. The other is to join the activist group Pause AI so that you can begin to do something about this. You can begin to take this issue into your own hands and begin to protect your family, your country, and all of humanity from this threat. Thank you for paying attention to this issue, and I'll see you in the next video.